Hey everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm looking back at the mega hit TV series MASH, and more specifically, actor Gary Burghoff, who played Corporal Radar O'Reilly. And I'm asking this question: was Gary Burghoff the best actor on the show? Because I'll tell you what, at least one of the former cast members thought that he was. MASH originated as a novel in 1968 written by author Richard Hornberger, who used the pen name Richard Hooker. He based the book upon his time as an army surgeon during the Korean War. Then, in 1970, a film adaptation of the novel was released. It starred Donald Sutherland as Hawkeye and Elliot Gould as Trapper John McIntyre, and it was directed by Robert Altman. For those who've never seen the film, you should know that Robert Altman's unique film style makes this movie quite different from what we all know as the MASH television series. Now, Hornberger based the character of Hawkeye on himself, and many of the book's characters were based upon people he knew from his time in the military. The television series had such an amazing cast, which definitely helped the show become as beloved as it has over the years. In fact, Alan Alda's portrayal of Hawkeye yielded many accolades, including winning 5 Emmy Awards for his involvement with the series as either a writer, director, or actor. Now, personally, I thought Alda's portrayal of Hawkeye Pierce was absolutely amazing. And with that said, as I stated earlier, there is at least one member of the original cast that had a different name in mind when asked who they thought the best actor was when the show first started. Now, I want to give credit where credit is due. I learned this information from listening to the MASH Matters podcast that is created by the amazing podcast team of Jeff Maxwell and Ryan Patrick. Now, you may remember Jeff Maxwell as Private Igor Straminsky from the television series. And if you're a fan of MASH, come on, who isn't? Well, then you owe it to yourself to head over to your favorite podcast source and subscribe to MASH Matters. It is one of my favorite podcasts out there. On a recent episode of their show, which happened to be their 100th episode, they share a very rare, never-before-heard interview with the one and only McLean Stevenson. Now, this interview is chock full of great info, but one of the most interesting things I heard during the interview was when McLean was asked about the cast, and he stated that the best actor of the bunch was Gary Burghoff. Burghoff was the only actor to have played the same role in both the movie and the television adaptation of MASH. McLean talked about how prior to the MASH film, Burghoff had been in the off-Broadway production of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, which had been a smash hit, and McLean stated that his performance as Charlie Brown was brilliant. He then went on to say that he was great as Radar in the MASH movie. He added that Burghoff really created Radar. Sure, the character was already there, but it was Gary who really brought the character to life. For example, the double talking at the same time as other people. Now, that was Gary's idea. In fact, Gary would go so far as to learn both Radar's lines and Colonel Blake's lines, so that he could do the double talking as though he knew exactly what Blake was going to say. And while Burghoff definitely could deliver on comedy as shown so well in some of the early seasons, he could also deliver some of the toughest scenes of the show like nobody else could. And this is clearly evident as he delivers these 4 lines. I have a message. Lieutenant Colonel Henry Blake's plane was shot down over the Sea of Japan. It spun in. There were no survivors. Now, that scene and Burghoff's delivery of those 4 lines still brings me to tears every time I watch that episode. Now, as I said before, when you look at MASH and think back across the incredible cast of the show, from its early beginnings in 1972 all the way through to the final cast who were there for the series finale, goodbye, farewell, and amen, it's pretty clear that there were a lot of great actors involved who helped make the show the smash hit that it was. And with that said, as I listened to McLean Stevenson make the argument that Burghoff was the best actor on the show, I found myself being convinced that he just might be right. Here's one last picture of Gary Burghoff with McLean Stevenson, showing Radar holding on to his beloved teddy bear. Now, here's where I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on who the best actor was on MASH? I could easily see arguments that could be made for several of the show's stars. And I want to mention once again, If you are a fan of MASH, you owe it to yourself to check out the amazing MASH Matters podcast, hosted by Jeff Maxwell and Ryan Patrick. It is really well done. Also, I would greatly appreciate it if you would consider subscribing to my channel, where I talk about the movies, TV shows, and music that I loved while growing up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. As always, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe out there, and have a great day.